Shannon, and welcome to another T.A.R.A. Sessions with my beautiful, lovely guest, Miss Alex.
Hi!
She's in the hot seat today. You might know her on TikTok as It's Aunt Alex. She's a phenomenal storyteller and just all around awesome human being, and I'm so happy that you're here today.
You didn't call this the hot seat.
In my pitch, I didn't say, oh, by the way, it's the hot seat.
It's my first time hearing the hot seat, but okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, and because the last time I asked you to do a video with us, it was a music video for Rosewood Avenue, and you're like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Then you show up, and we messed your hair, we put gel in it, we turned you into an 80s teenager.
Yeah,
awesome.
80s teenager.
It was good.
Yeah.
So after that experience, I was like, maybe she'll never say yes to me again.
I'm a yes gal.
Yes.
Don't tell too many people that.
I know. You are. And the reason I invited you here is because this series, we're talking all about the dance with dating. And the reason you came to mind, other than the fact that you're awesome and I love talking to you in general, is that there was that one night in my backyard by a fire. Mm-hmm. I don't even know. This was during COVID because we weren't allowed to be inside. And we were drinking wine and we were by the fire. We got talking about dating. So in this whole series, I'm talking about, about what I've been through and how I've come to know who I am and all these new experiences that I'm having been married for 27 years and divorced for 3 now. And then we were talking about dating and the life of dating. And I think at the time I was asked to be cast on that dating show. I think that's what started the conversation. Yeah, because I was approached by some LA talent scout or whatever for this casting for this dating show, and it actually made me laugh because when I was talking with the producers of the show, and I was like, I've never dated. I was in high school and I had a couple of boyfriends, but that's not really dating. And then I was married at 19. I was married for 27 years. And so I've never gone through the process of putting yourself out there into the world and say, okay, I'd like to go on a date. So that's what sparked the conversation. So I was laughing with the producers. I was like, I've never actually dated, so this would be really funny. And then I didn't end up doing that show, but then in the back of my mind, I was like, it'd be so fun to do a whole series on talking about the good and the bad and the ugly and the highs and the lows of dating. Mm-hmm. And so you always made me laugh with your dating stories. And when you would talk about it. And also, it's the reason, like hearing everybody kind of have their dating stories makes me not want to do it. Because I don't have the same level of courage, and I feel like every time I think about it, and then I got really drunk with Sam, a mutual friend of ours is Sam, and then we made a dating profile for me, and I lasted like a week. And I was like, I can't do this. This is horrifying. Like I don't know how to do it. It's so awkward and weird. Anyway, so that was the reason I thought it'd be fun to have these conversations. Yeah. So I would love to hear some dating stories of yours.
Sure, I have some. I've got some,
Okay, great.
I've got some. Well, starting with the way the evolution of dating in general has been such a trip. Just even from my own personal experience, right? So when I was in high school, dating apps didn't exist. There was the computer ones, like the actual websites and stuff like that where you'd make a profile, but that wasn't something that was for young people to do.
That's right.
Right? So I never dated in high school. The idea was just absolutely terrifying to me. I had crushes, but if they showed any form of interest in me, it was what?
Yeah. Oh, that's
run for the hills,
yeah.
And I only really started dating when I moved to Toronto, which was when I was 19. Okay. And at that point, dating apps were just becoming a little bit more popular amongst the youth.
Yeah. And they were becoming cool, for young people to use, not just older people like me. Not just old people.
So for me, my real dating experiences have, I believe, only ever come through dating apps because anytime I was approached organically, I could not handle the pressure of that, and I just would say no. There's definitely some kind of block there. So it was always, I think I felt more empowered at the beginning with these apps because there was that barrier.
Right.
And I say dating, right? Because when I was in Toronto at that age, it was basically like hooking up. Like
Right.
I didn't consider that dating.
We
Like
need
you
to
go
talk
to the
about
bar,
that
meet
more in a
someone.
minute, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's the part that terrifies me.
Oh, okay.
Like I would do really well if we were like in the 1800s, like Bridgerton. And there's this whole process where, you know, the suitors come to the door on Sunday afternoons and you're in a parlor and you get to have these conversations and your family kind of screens them and then you go on the promenade. You know,
true.
do you watch that show at all?
No,
You don't watch
but
Bridgerton? Yeah.
No.
So you probably save yourself because it's quite addictive. But it's set in the late 1800s, I think. And so they have this promenade thing, which is where, like, if a suitor interests you, then on a Sunday afternoon, there's a designated time where everybody is out, and then you have a promenade. So you're out walking, but it's chaperoned, and you walk with the potential suitor, and you get to know each other. So that's like the slow kind of thing is easier for me. This whole, as soon as you say to somebody, hey, you're kind of cute, let's go out, then the idea that you're supposed to hook up right away and the filtering is sleeping with them, like that freaks me right out. Like I would want to wait.
I know.
Right? Like, so but I'm in my 40s, my late 40s, so I'm 40. How old am I? I'm 48. So the generation is different too. Right? Than you, because you're quite a bit younger than I am. So that doesn't freak you out, but meeting somebody in person is
So I'm talking like that was just like that was what you did, like at like in that age, like from like 19 to like 23. That was just pretty much what I would do, and it stems like it's like what the like it makes sense. It's like what a lot of people who hold a lot of insecurities about their appearance do. It's how they feel more comfortable. I felt more comfortable not being comfortable in my skin, just being drunk and getting that kind of attention in that capacity because I could not handle it when I was myself and sober because I didn't like that type of attention because I didn't understand like why it was happening. Right. So anyway, that's pretty much
so
like
interesting.
It's not great. It's not ideal. I didn't like that and I've grown a lot since then.
Well, the fact that you have that type of self-awareness now looking back at your own evolution in dating. So what was motivating you when you were 19?
Exactly.
And what motivates you now or what you're looking for now is really different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes maturity. It takes time. So it took me like till like last year.
Yeah.
And I'm still like confused. But yeah, then I'm one day I was just like, maybe I should try. Like I'd never been in a relationship. I was like, maybe I should try and be in a relationship. And I remember reading a book. I think they even made a movie out of it. It's called like Think Like a Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think. And basically, I think it was like, was it Steve Harvey who wrote it? I think Steve Harvey wrote it. Anyway, it was all about this idea of like dating someone for like at least 3 months, like before having sex with them. Right. Which I'd never experienced before. So I was like, okay, let's give this a shot. And so I did that. And that's how I ended up in a 4.5-year relationship. And this is not foolproof plan whatsoever because that relationship should not have been that long. So it's not like foolproof. And then now I've like, then after that, bringing me till here, I started to do more like regular type of dating, like not like the drunken kind of thing back in the day, just like regular. And those were my experiences, and they've just been awful.
No, I'm so sorry. But the good part, though, if I'm getting this right, is that because of what you've grown into who you are, you have more confidence in yourself, you know who you are more, that you are now looking at this different way of doing dating. So even though it's maybe hasn't been positive yet, the positive part is that you're willing to make that connection as yourself. Like fully as yourself, which is new, right? Yeah. That takes a lot of courage.
It's a lot of work. I think that you really have to get to know yourself before you're out there trying to connect with somebody else. And I also think there's something to say, like I've been reflecting on it and, I only really dated and did this hookup stuff because it just was like what everyone else was doing. And what, like when you watch movies, TV shows, it's kind of like what people do at that age, whatever. And I don't think I ever really had a strong desire for it. Like once again, I'd have like attractions for men, but like to just like go and randomly sit and like for dinner with each other, like, it just, because like I said, every single one I've been on has like not been great. Like it's overwhelmingly quite dull. Like it's really hard to find somebody to sit down and have, I'm sure because it's not even just with dating, it's with friendships too. Like someone you can sit down with and really have a good connection with. And I will say this, prior to my relationship and then after it, like the evolution of like online dating like shifted drastically. And I really believe now that these apps are just full of like very desperate people that don't really know exactly what they want or think they know what they want and they're desperately trying to get it, that it affects their ability to even function. And someone used this term recently that I love called like an analysis paralysis, where they're just like so stuck in like this that they can't even do anything. So now there's this whole thing with like dating apps where you're on it and you're just talking to someone. Like, and it's like, are we like, why are we just texting? We haven't even met and we're just texting each other. And it's so dull. And it dulls everything down. So like before my relationship, this was like 10 plus years ago, it would be like this fun banter and then you'd meet. It would be like really quick and you'd have like, it would be like flirtatious and fun. You'd be like, oh, I want to see this person. This looks like a fun conversation. Now it's like barely, no one really brings an A game to a conversation. So it's so dull. So you've dulled yourselves that you don't even want to meet because you're just like, oh, I'm kind of bored by each other.
All the sizzle kind of stuff is gone. That sort of, the flirting. The whole concept of flirting, because and I'm so confused by flirting, and any of my girlfriends who are watching this are going to laugh hysterically at this, because I remember being at a bachelorette party for my cousin, and we went to Tremblant, I think, and we were in the disco, the bar that's in Tremblant, like in the village. Have you been there? Is that what it's called? So we went as a big group of girls, and I was married at the time, and I don't like boom, 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 like those spaces. I mean, I go with the group because they're there, but I find it's really sensory overload. So I kind of went and sat at the bar, and there was a gentleman there with his son. And so I will talk to anybody at any time, always, because I'm genuinely interested in people and their stories. So I will sit next to a guy and be like, hey, how's it going? Like, tell me about your life. What brings you joy? Like, I don't even ask fluff questions. I ask like life questions. So I had this great conversation with this guy, and he was in town with his son because they play hockey, and all of our kids played hockey, and we just had this great conversation. And it was like nothing to me. It was just like I met a cool human. And I come back to the group of girls, and my cousins were teasing me, and they're like, something about like I was the only one getting any action that night, or just that kind of banter, and then I'd picked up this guy, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, so to me, and this happens a lot, like if I'm like that with people, and my ex-husband used to say, you're a really intelligent woman, but you do not have a radar at all for that. That you're when really I'm like, but you're missing that radar, that one piece that you don't realize the signal you're giving to people just by being friendly and enjoying conversation, because that's apparently flirting. So where is the space in between to just have a conversation with somebody and be like, tell me about yourself?
This is so not the question for me, because we're identical when it comes to that. I'm literally like, let's have the conversation. I've been on dates where I only knew that it was a date when I was on it. Like halfway through, I was like, oh shit.
Oh, this is a date.
I did not want this to be this. I just thought that we had met and we're like pals and we're like hanging out. So I totally get what you mean. And it sucks because when you become more aware of it, it affects your conversation with men. So I have this, like currently this is like an issue. So like when I'm out and about and I'm just chatting with strangers, which I love to do, I often find myself like, I feel, because you can feel it almost now, and you can see it in their eyes a little bit, and you're like, oh, like this is where this is going, and I don't want it to go there. Or sometimes I'm like, I just have a block. So sometimes I'm like, I am attracted to this man, but like I still can't handle the pressure of like why, like where this is going. So I think, just kind of like for me, it's in the eyes. Like there's like a point where, like literally the other day I was at the Bay, which is like, this department store. I was in like the home section. I'm holding a baguette. And this man like was just like circling me, and then approaches and asked me where the baguette, like I got the baguette from. And so like, I thought he was just a tourist. So I was like telling him all the location. He just looked at me like so confused as to why I like spent all that time telling him where he could get the baguette. And I was like, sorry, dude, you're clearly barking up the wrong tree. Did you not?
I just want to make friends with people.
He's like, I'm like, where are you from? He's like, oh, I'm from here. And I'm like, okay. Goodbye, sir. Also, he was like 20 years older than me. This is happening a lot to me recently. I'm having a lot of men in their 50s approaching me. And I'm like, have I aged like drastically over the last few years that now they believe me to be like their age? Or is it just, I don't know what's going on. I feel like, and now I'm like attracting it. I'm like, all these older men are like,
I know. So up to me. So that like, to me, the thing that causes me the anxiety is not knowing the rules of the game. That's what causes me anxiety.
There's no, you know what? I don't consider them rules because there can't be rules. It's all so confusing. Like I wouldn't think too much about it when it comes to like that stuff, because I think you know yourself like you so well. And you're way ahead of me in that capacity. I have still so much to do on that.
I've lived many more decades than you.
So like, I think that you're gonna be well prepared for like when you sit down and go out with someone. I would stay away from the damn apps. Like I know it's so hard to nowadays. They're just really crap. You know what I mean? And I hate like trying to like, I hate saying that and like not. Is dissuading a word? I've been using that a lot recently, and I don't know if it's a word.
Is what a word?
Dissuading.
Yeah, that's a word. Yeah,
it's
to dissuade somebody. Dissuade.
Yeah, I don't want to dissuade people, but I just don't think it's the best place, because you don't get to feel someone's energy and like have that electric, you know, when you meet someone, you're like, oh, like this is like going to be fun. And it makes for a good first date because you know you have this like energy that matches that does not translate on an app.
No.
So I think that's why you end up on all the shit dates.
Safety comes to mind for me because, you know, that's the first, I was like, do I put my real name? Because if I put my real name and you Google me, you just Google T.A.R.A. Shannon, you get pages and pages of stuff with all kinds of information.
And like your business, which is like,
so it's
your
like,
address
that might be very overwhelming for somebody too. Yeah. And the whole 7 kids thing, I kind of keep that to myself for a little bit. It's not like I want to hit them with that right away.
That's true. I wouldn't give you don't need to give your full name.
Children?
Are you ready to be a part of my family?
Are you ready to be a part of my like circus life? Yeah. That is my life, you know?
Absolutely.
So that came to mind. And I didn't really like how I felt on the apps. Like I didn't like how it made me feel. And so the energy thing, like I'm huge into that, right? Reading people and feeling the energy around somebody. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal for me. So that explains why it does not translate. No. So then it comes down to like, how do you meet people then? Because my sister always inspired me. She's a high school teacher, and she knew she wanted a family. And so, but she became a teacher when she was like 20, 21 or so, like right out of university. And she didn't want to date anybody from work. She's not a big partier. She's not a bar person, doesn't drink, nothing like that. So I remember her saying, you know, where am I going to meet somebody? Where do I meet somebody? And finally, after years and years, she decided to go on eHarmony, which was at the time more, I don't know if it still is, but it was more in depth, right? So it's more of a psychology kind of drill down. And then her now husband was a soldier, and had come back from, I think, his 6th tour in Afghanistan. And his mom was like, you need to meet somebody now and settle down. And he's like, how do I meet? Was in the army from the time he was like 18. Yeah. And so he went on eHarmony, and they had their first date, and she knew right away after that first date, there was just this instant connection. And it turns out they lived in the same condo complex. They found out after. So
funny.
When I hear stories like that, and they're married, they have 2 beautiful girls, and you know, I always remembered listening to her dating stories and feeling like she would do these speed dates, and she would tell me about them, and I'd be like, God, how do you go through that? Like how I would be so anxious and so shy about it, but I'm not shy in life, in regular life, but. When you were talking about when you become aware that you may be giving that signal off, it does cause me to kind of close in on myself a little bit, because I don't want to be giving a wrong signal. That's not my intent at all, ever. I just really enjoy people. So I'm finding it hard, the idea, and let me clarify, I have not even started dating or tried to date or even thought about it. This is my prep work to whether I might start dating. But finding that balance of, you know, being yourself and be authentically yourself, but understanding the landscape of dating for people my age as well. And so I'm trying to find my way through that.
I'm going to say this because I think this is actually going to be a positive thing about dating, is I think you're in a really good position because you're in a position in your life, and like the age that you're at and the age of the men that I'm assuming you're likely going to be interested in are going to be post like having families and having kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're literally going to be wanting just to have a partner, just someone, and which
Yeah.
is what I'm assuming you're looking for, just someone to enjoy each other's company and have that partnership,
Yeah.
which is like, at this point for me, something that I would want when I see that they want children. I've been on dates and it's been like awkward, these conversations that have happened. Like I literally last summer, I went on a date. I think I'd mentioned this to you briefly, with a man who was a priest for 16 years. And he had left, like he was older, he's in his early 40s, and he had left with the intention of like, I am like, want to have a wife and children. So we're on the date and he's telling me like, I want to have a wife and children. I'm like, I cannot be a wife, nor do I want children. He was like visibly devastated. Like visibly devastated. So it was, you know, that was so uncomfortable. And I think that was I have not been on a date since then.
Okay.
And I like, that was last summer. And
Right.
I just, because it was like this shift, and I was like, oh my God, like this is like, I need to like circle back and think about these things. Because previous to that, it was, and I actually had a connection with that man, like,
Right.
but it wasn't like a strong one. It was
Right.
just better than what I've had
Had
before,
before.
which was literally like sitting there, just like with a loud voice in my head being like, this is not it, but sitting there and listening to just them saying boring shit and then me saying boring shit and then being like, what am I even doing? And this one man, and like, cause literally on an app, like, because I don't have this, you know, connection with energy, I'm like just going off of like what I physically am into, basically, because the
Right.
conversation once again is not great no matter what. So like on an app, like for texting, you know what I mean? So I'm just going by like what I physically want, which is pretty much just like a tall man. Like I love me a tall man. So I remember just being out with this tall, dull ass man. And it was such a boring conversation. I was so thankful when we left. I was like, thank you. And you leave, and I'm literally leaving this place thinking like, this was not good. Yeah. There is zero chance that this man thought that this was good. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But he still went in for the kiss, like just boom, like shocked, gotcha, like went in so fast that I couldn't even stop it.
Oh God.
And then we break from the kiss, and I'm just like, oh my God. Like, even, I remember when it was happening, I was literally like, just like, with like the face on my face, and I'm like, blah. And all I did was I high-fived him. I high-fived him.
Right.
And then I left. And he still asked me for a second date. The desperation that we have out there is just is not good. So
Yeah.
it's like we scream in our heads, like we know when something isn't right, but it's so uncomfortable to have to like break a date early or like leave. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know why we do this to ourselves.
Right? Yeah, I
we
know.
do.
I know who I am.